My new apartment had a hidden door, and I should have never opened it. When I found the listing, it felt too good to be true. A vintage one-bedroom apartment in a historical brownstone, right in the heart of a quiet neighborhood, for less than $800 a month. In this economy, I expected a scam, or at least mold, roaches, or a haunted vibe. But I toured it in person and, no joke, it was charming. Hardwood floors, brick walls, a clawfoot tub. The landlady, a pale, soft-spoken woman in her 60s named Mrs. Lorne, told me the building had a long, colorful history, but had been lovingly preserved since the 1920s. There was only one unit available, 3F, top floor, front-facing. The view was of quiet streets and tall trees. The moment I stepped in, I felt at home. Still, there was something odd. Not wrong, just off. Like the feeling when someone leaves a room just before you enter. A kind of invisible presence. But the rent was perfect. And I needed out of my last place ASAP. I signed the lease that day. My first week was uneventful. I unpacked, settled into my remote job, got to know the neighborhood. The walls creaked at night, but it was an old building. The radiator hissed. The lights flickered occasionally. Normal stuff. The weirdness began on night 7. I was in bed reading when I heard a soft, steady tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It sounded like it was coming from the living room wall, the one between my unit and what should have been the hallway. I figured it was the pipes or someone walking down the creaky corridor. But the tapping continued, rhythmic, deliberate, too slow to be footsteps. I got up, stood in the living room, and listened. It stopped. Then just as I turned to walk away. Tap, tap, tap. Closer this time. Almost like it was from inside the wall. I slept with a light on. By the second week, I started noticing the door. Well, not a door exactly. It was a faint outline on the far wall behind the coat rack. The trim didn't match the rest of the unit. At first, I thought it was a boarded-up maintenance panel or some old closet that had been painted over. But when I ran my fingers along the frame, I could feel a draft. Cold air leaking through the cracks. And the paint, slightly fresher around the edges, like someone had tried to cover it up recently. I emailed Mrs. Lorne to ask if it used to be a second closet. She replied, "No door should be there. Please do not tamper with the wall. That part of the structure is sealed for safety." That's it. No explanation. A few nights later, I woke up to the sound of my coat rack tipping over. I stumbled out of bed, groggy, heart racing. All my coats were scattered on the floor. The rack had fallen against the mystery wall, and the impact must have knocked some of the loose plaster free. That's when I saw it. There was a door. An old, narrow wooden door with a rusted handle. No knob, just a small metal latch. It looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. Layers of paint and wallpaper half peeled from its surface. Despite everything in me,